far left. I doubt it though, but it points to him being on the left. It doesn't point to him being a groiper. It doesn't add up.
Hey, Shai. Here's the thing. You, thank God, have common sense. Most people don't. I'm being serious. Most people don't, right? What you just said, I agree with everything you just said. But people are too lazy and dumb to have common sense. XG, hold on a second. I'm going to come to you in a minute, but I got to... DQ's been patiently waiting. I got to say hello to BB. DQ, you there?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off the guy that spoke like 2 people ago. He said something about be careful where we get our facts from. And I've been thinking about this for a while now. Like, nowadays, people they get their facts from different places. Like, nowadays, people don't trust mainstream media, granted, right? Say the story going to mainstream media. Some people get their news from social media, Instagram, maybe TikTok. I personally don't like getting my information from TikTok because it's Joe Slow from somebody's mom's basement can make any conspiracy theory video, put some scary music behind it, and people don't believe it. So I honestly think TikTok should have been shut down a while ago. But that's just me. But like what he was saying, where do we get our facts from, quote unquote facts? It's kind of hard now. If you can do the mainstream media thing, yeah, but that got its own biases. They don't get the story straight all the time. If you go to TikTok, it's a bunch of independent users that could just come up with anything if people can believe it. You go to Wikipedia, you go to news articles, it's kind of hard to get the quote unquote facts. It's kind of everywhere. And I think that's one of the problems. Like, we don't have anything to grasp on to really know the truth. And that's one of the bigger issues that we have now, because we don't know what's real.
I have a question on what you just said. If you see a press conference where you see the head of the regional FBI office, you then see the head of the director of the FBI, you see the governor of Utah, you see the head of the police department for that county in Utah, and you see the sitting attorney general for that district or the local district attorney in a press conference. Do you feel pretty who you're going to hear in a press conference? You feel okay with that?
Me personally?
Generally. You personally.
Generally,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Generally, yes.
So,
I feel about 80% more comfortable with that than social media.
So to your question of like who you're going to trust, it's amazing to me, and Rachel just put this in the chat, like, why don't people, the sources are there, like, just, whether you watch it through CNN, NBC, Fox, or, whatever network you put on, the press conference is the press conference, and they're giving a lot of them. So, I mean, but people, even if you were to state the facts that you heard in the press conference, and they showed a video in that press conference the other day, even if you state that, people refute and say, no, none of that.
I agree. And so, that's my point.
Yeah, I was like joining you in that.
Yeah.
The information's out there. People just would rather pick up their phone and look at TikTok than actually watch, the governor or the attorney general or a district attorney give facts. Thanks. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. That just creates more confusion, because even I already called it. I said, when they catch this shooter, whoever he is, if it's the official quote-unquote shooter, they still not going to believe it. They say, that's going to be the fall guy. It's always the fall guy. It's always never the right person. Every single time this happens. Every time it's a tragedy, it's always, that's not the real story. It's always a conspiracy theory. And this leaves a bunch of mess. And we need to be focused on what's real and what's not.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, man. You want to land your plane? Okay, hold on, David. I have to say hello to BB, and then I want to go to XG. BB, what's good, bro?
Not much, brother. But what's going on, JB, Nye, everybody in the audience, too.
You want to chime in, or you just want to listen?
No, I'm listening, but I want to point out, too, that people don't want to believe the truth. And I see that to read an article of facts, that they don't have the attention span. They'd rather a TikTok story, a reel that goes on with music and theatrics for like 30, 40 seconds, and they believe that to be real. And I think a lot of people are failing to comprehend. When I heard people were talking to some, there was like people that were standing up saying, I shot him. That's mentally ill. They're putting themselves in a position where they could be potentially shot, killed. if say they said it to the wrong police officer and he thinks by the way that their actions are moving that he has a firearm on him, he's going to get shot. How sick do you have to be to want to say that you shot him right after that murder in that place? And I think a lot of people are trying to not justify, but they're afraid of the people don't want.
Oh no, BB, they're trying to BB. Don't even beat up, man. They are trying to justify it.
Yeah, I didn't want to start fires, but yeah, they're trying to justify it, and it's amazing. I'm watching all these people that are losing their jobs, and I think more and more they're not getting enough of them that are justifying the killing of a man that was speaking. And I watch this man all the time, and I love the way he debated. It was he would let you ask a question, and then he says, "Now explain why." And people have a problem with that. That's what boggles my fucking mind. I don't get it. And he beat them at their own game. So it's, yeah, but I'll just listen. And when I feel like the time, but thank you.
I appreciate you, BB. So before I go to the next speaker, hold on, Abby. Let me just say I have to use this disclaimer. I speak for myself. This next speaker does not speak for this house. He does not speak for me, Nye, Abby, BB, any of the mods. He speaks for himself. Abby, just give me a minute. I have to say hello to XG because he's been patiently waiting. He speaks for himself. XG, how you doing?
I'm doing one thing, XG, before you speak, is on this, we're all on the same page. I don't consent to recording and Kitover, like, once again, and people recording these rooms. I absolutely do not consent to it.
Thank you very little, Abby.
It's fine. Actually, play some music so Kitover believes. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to hop in real quick.
That's right. You just got clipped, Abby.
Which I thought was
you got clipped
first until I started listening into how the far or alt-right speaks. And now, I mean, Nick Fuentes is one of the most popular super far-right figures, but I think all of us would agree on this stage. Nick Fuentes is way further right than Charlie Kirk is, unless I'm mistaken on this. But Nick Fuentes, at least to my understanding, is way more far right.
That's what I said.
In the way that he's described MAGA, at least, is quote-unquote Jewish fascism. Now, take in mind, the same person, Nick Fuentes, has also quoted Charlie Kirk as quote-unquote being paid by AIPAC, being paid by Israel. How much longer do we have to wait until we think he's a foreign agent, et cetera, et cetera? How much are they paying him to say these things and defend Israel, et cetera, et cetera? So the far right, at least, it's not that they wouldn't call him fascist or they wouldn't call him evil. They think what he's doing is even more evil because of their anti-Semitism. And they think they're associated with the Jews doing some random Jewish cabal shit or whatever that they think is going on. That, again, let me make it clear, I don't believe this is true whatsoever. I'm just repeating the talking points that Fuentes puts out. But, and I'm making it clear, I do believe Fuentes is an anti-Semite. I don't condone what he says. But that type of language and that type of rhetoric towards the Jews or anybody that shows some type of support for Israel, or that's MAGA, which has been showing more of a support for Israel genuinely, usually gets labeled as Jewish sympathizers, Jewish fascists, and they'll also get labeled, on top of being rhinos, they'll also be labeled globalist, quote unquote, which is their code word for you work with Israel and BB and et cetera, and you're evil. So their definition of evil and their definition of fascism is completely different than what our definition of evil and fascism is. They think anything Jewish related, you're cooked. And anything, then that's evil. So that's all I wanted to contribute.
Well, I have a question for you, actually, before you land your plane. Will Charlie Kirk's death spark more violence in the country?
Yeah.
That was short and sweet. Let me just say, guys, I have this article up. Trump blasts the left, and Abby, I think that's a problem. I think the president just needs to shut up finally, because this is just gonna stoke the flames out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but also and I don't really want why every room has to be about Jews. It's really disconcerting. But once again, Charlie Kirk and Turning Point had a very close relationship with the Jewish community. He was a man of faith, and the community is a community of faith. Many statements came out publicly from national Jewish organizations in horror with what happened and in support of his family. And I know in this last election, those more conservative Jewish organizations worked very closely with Turning Point. So that if we can just kind of get off that subject, because rooms tend to go there, and it's just disheartening that there's always this attack. It doesn't need to be.
Thank you, Counselor. Let me say hello to Lord Muenda. Lord Muenda, how you doing? Lord, are you there? I was saying that today with the jet game. Lord, are you there? Please hear me. Because they suck ass. All right, guys, we're going to go popcorn style. Please respect the one mic policy. David, I know you tried to jump in earlier. Did you want to jump in now?
Yeah, just had a quick question for Abby. As a lawyer, do you feel when there's official press releases, early stages, there's a lot of, there can be a lot of inaccurate information coming out from official resources, official agencies, I should say, in the early stages, since there can be pressure to come up with stuff?
They usually caveat them. There'll usually be some kind of caveat that it's in the early stage of the investigation. You'll most likely hear that. And I think you heard that in this press conference that they gave the other day. My point was, it's still going to be a lot more accurate than people going down the rabbit holes of TikTok to learn their news, and that it's still a trusted source to get updated information. But you will often, most likely, when you hear a press conference or a press release saying still under investigation, that the facts are still being formulated, and it's early stages. I mean, that's pretty common.
Yeah, and I definitely agree that it's way more accurate to get your information there than a TikTok or Facebook or even Fox News, CNN, whatever you want to call it. But personally, I feel sometimes in certain circumstances, they shouldn't just say anything to the public because that could do more harm than good until they officially know.
Do you understand why they released what they just released? I mean, they make decisions to go to the public when they're trying to locate someone. That was very intentional, very specific. Why they showed those videos, and they showed the physical person and what information they had, and they offered $100,000 reward.
$100,000.
They're using the public, and they're very specific what they release to the public and what they don't release to the public. It's very calculated. If you worked in law enforcement, I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the videos of actually identifying them. Yeah, those need to go out ASAP. In many ways, that those can be delayed 100%. But I'm talking about not necessarily just this case. I'm talking about just general. What if it's any of the active shooter situations? Sometimes they give out just facts that I think are information too early and that doesn't do the public any good about getting partial information about who his roommate may be, or whether this person is transgender or not transgender, or if his roommate's transgender. Don't understand really how that helps, but yes, identifying things on, hey, this is what we're looking for, this is the clothes, or anything that may identify the person before they catch them. Yes, get that information out to everyone ASAP, and don't delay. I 100% get on that, I understand. But some of the other information, I just think certain agencies just should keep their mouth closed because they can do more damage.
I think that's a judgment call by that particular law enforcement agency running
Abby,
the
John Kitover,
investigation.
sorry to interrupt. John Kitover is broadcasting this live.
He is.
Let me go ahead and
Yeah.
play some music.
Yeah.
Let me cue up some
I'm
music.
sorry, guys, but it's just really annoying. And
Well, if we play trademark music, he can't record. He has to stop. Ken and I take over.
Hold on, I'm gotta cue it up so somebody can talk while I
You want to cue it up?
any song, can we do requests here?
I was just gonna say, can we do a little Biggie?
Oh, Rocky got it.
Yeah, Rocky V.
This is called meditating instead of running your lips all the time.
the Epstein file.
So what I said earlier is I layered on that. First of all, you didn't just have the director of the FBI. You had the agent, the regional agent in charge of what would be northern Utah, and that branch. You usually have a U.S. attorney from that district. You usually will have in those press conferences. You had the governor of Utah speak. You probably have if you have the district attorney from that county, you may have the police chief from that that municipality that's affected. I mean, in most of these press conferences, it's not just one speaker. So and I gave the example that, like, in New York, when we had that shooting, what was that, about a month ago? Someone can remind me. And the dude was from Vegas, actually, that went to New York and
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Shot up the NFL, the building of the NFL. I mean, in those press conferences, if you remember, you had the chief of police of New York Police Department, you had federal, you have people from the Justice Department. So in these press conferences, it's usually an array. Now, whether you trust Patel or whether you trust Director Ray when he spoke before it was Patel, right. I mean, it's vetted with a lot of other people that are in that investigation. And, that's, if you don't like one, you have enough to choose from up there that, that are taking that investigation, that you should have a comfort level with it. And again, I'm also saying that versus finding some conspiracy theory on TikTok. I mean, just use your brain.
Oh no, I agree with taking the word. But
the governor of Utah seemed to me very balanced through this. And by the way, I was going to put something in the chat that Gary put in his chat. You're going to be shocked that I'm the one saying this, but I don't know if you heard Bernie Sanders.
Yes, I did. I listened to Bernie. Yeah.
What did he say?
I was amazing. I'll put it in the chat. It's actually something, Jay, you might even want to play in the room.
It's nice.
And you think I'm the last person to tell you to do that, but Sanders came out with an excellent statement about political violence and how wrong it is. And when he gave it, he cited left and right violence. And it was actually a very balanced statement. So But I think that's what we have right now. We have to go on real facts as they come out. And again, it's not usually these press conferences are an array of people that are working the investigation.
Also, just one last thing, just to piggyback off of David's point a little bit about the unnecessary information that comes out sometimes. I'm a little bit confused sometimes too as to how the automatic assumption is that you dated a trans person, therefore you're left wing, when one of the really big and still currently very big conservative influencers is Blair White, who is a trans woman, right? So I don't think being transgender exclusively puts you on the left when we've had multiple transgender figures that are consistently out there on the right espouting right-wing claims too and supporting Trump, including Caitlyn Jenner, for example.
So,
I hear you, but I think generally, if you were to poll that, you would probably see in polling that a conservative, and looking at the position that people that vote more conservatively are probably less in support. And you saw that in this last presidential election with that issue becoming front and center in that election. And people took very, very strong positions against it. As it came up with Waltz and the tampons in the bathroom, and then going forward with the whole gender issue. So I don't know. I'm not here to opine as to what the percentage is, but I'd put some money on the fact that it's a pretty high percentage. Or not.
Thank you, counsel. Hey, Jordan, hold on. Everybody, hold on a second. We gotta get a new speaker.
Recorded?
I have no idea, hon. Supposedly, yeah, because he played a buzzing sound when the music was being played. So we'll play music again in a minute, but I want to say hello to Lucky Sinclair. Lucky Sinclair, how you doing?
Hey, bro.
Do you want to chime in on will Charlie Kirk's death spark more violence in America?
Heck no, that's one of the most disrespectful things that could have happened to anybody in America. See, like, I'm not going to judge the brother, but there was people that was listening to him of a certain group, and they found somebody that they could respect. And when you take something away from somebody, even if it's sacred to the minutest point, you cause anger and strife. Those people who cause anger and strife, they don't care about peace. They enjoy contention. And I think that is devastating.
Thank you, Lucky. Jordan, Jordan.
So, yeah, there's an enmeshment of several things that we have to look at from the perspective of a paradigm shift in one, how we get our news, how we editorialize it. I mean, if we didn't have new media, right, we would simply hear of this event. We would possibly make the assumption that it was, political warfare, and then we would have to wait to hear the facts, right, from the investigation. But so now what's going on is political violence is one consideration, and how public figures, public servants react to that, how folks on the right and the left respond to this event. Those things are enmeshed. And then there's a feedback loop on how the press and political figures then respond to how we perceive things and process it in social media. So the dynamic is rather complex and confusing. And people who don't pay attention to politics very much, which is most Americans, I mean, they may be polarized, but they're not as vested in it as, say, we are. They are really lost in this. It's tumultuous and it's problematic. And so I think we need to think of all the layers and the conflation of constructs. This is really complicated stuff and very nuanced. And then we aren't diving deep into some of the content that is out there that is disinformation and misinformation. I mean, the whole thing is just an absolute mess, but it's serving some stakeholders. And I don't know how you could tease this out in a week, much less a year. So anyways, I just want to give that perspective because I think we forget somewhat how things used to be and how things used to be processed from the perspective of government relations and public relations.
Yeah, but Jordan, how things used to be processed, we didn't have $1,500 computers in our hands, and our kids are being raised by these phones. It's the truth. How many kids do you know that don't have phones? You don't want your kid to be the outlier of the group, so you got to get them a phone. It's $1,500. Hold on. Let me finish, please. And they're being indoctrinated by these radical sites because we as parents are being derelict in our duties to see what our kids are doing. That's really the truth.
Right, but what I'm arguing is that social media used to be an adjunct at most, at best. Now it's a central source of media as it's consumed, and so I think I don't know I don't know what more I would say to that other than we need to rethink all the layers that are at play here, because it's rife with opportunity for people to distort the facts even when they don't want to. And I think I don't know who revisits it. I don't know what academic entities, media psychologists look at this stuff, I guess. But I think it's just so much more complicated and we're in the midst of it. And so it's hard for us to almost take a step back and be objective about it.
Thank you, Jordan. Before I go to Lord Mwenda, let me do a quick reset. Community conversations, collaborations. Will Charlie Kirk's death spark more violence? Let me say hello to a few people. Tisha, how you doing? Megan, how you doing? Mary, you have your hand raised. I try to bring you up numerous times. We have Liz. We have Miss Fifi. We have Moose in the house. Moosey, what's good, man? Why don't you come up? Guys, you have a pink ticket. Camille, Grace, cash in your tickets. Teddy, Don Julio, cash in your tickets, guys. It's free. Don't cost you anything. Lord Mwenda, how you doing, bro?
Pardon me. Listen, I just put in a link in the chat from an Instagram post of one of these similarly aged, individuals, like it says they're 19 years old, going around and vandalizing memorials that, was set up for, Mr. Kirk, and this is, like for me, initially, my position was that the violence will not be as much because if you've noticed, hey, there's not looting riots up here like it was for George Floyd or whatever, or any of these, every time that they're race baiting, Americans, relating to police brutality, et cetera. Like none of that has happened, like to some extent there's been an element of decorum, right? But situations like this, I think that it's you could just go up to the 4-minute mark if you want to watch it and even like pin it to the extent that is one of the situations that would create, for more violence, because I don't think, Mr. Kirk, if violence, if we see a whole bunch of violence in the name of Charlie Kirk for the people that supported or somewhat agreed with his rhetoric, that will actually be going against his principles. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think for the people that actually, accepted it or adhered to some of, it's like for me, like what I agree with, like where I stand with Mr. Kirk was he was a family man and he was a constitutionalist. So if you were a family man and you were a constitutionalist, I don't think you're gonna be, act outrightly violent. You know what I'm saying? Unless provoked. And like that video, I think is somewhat of a provocation for people who I guess are not really tapped into their own being. Because man, look, they had a vigils in the UK. You know what I'm saying? In South Korea. You know what I'm saying? So to suggest that this man didn't have a positive impact one way or another, regardless of whether or not what he said pissed you off, is using violence is just gonna negate a whole bunch of his turning point USA. You know what I'm saying? Even that's no turning point of USA. We're getting away from the violence and being violent, and let's have a discussion. He said it himself. But
thank you, Lord Stan. You want to jump in?
Yeah, I think it's preposterous to suggest that because a crazy person or someone on the extreme outlier shot someone, that everybody that is left of center agrees with what happened. I find it horrible. I think most people on the right find it horrible. I think that the shooters that might have had a right identity that did bad actions, people on the right don't agree to. So to make claims that the left agrees to this and that that right focused people wouldn't ever do, or that someone that's right of center wouldn't ever do what happened, is not the right way to put it. I think the better way to put it, if you draw a Venn diagram, that 99.9% of the U.S. or 99.998% of the U.S. would never do such a thing, and don't try to make it political.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Lord. Did you want to push back, Lord?
That the whole scenario is political. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Kirk's whole stint was, as much as he wasn't a college graduate, right? He would go to these locations to make the young individual, which he once was, aware of the political structure, trying to get the vote. He mobilized. I think, like, if we're gonna be honest, he was, part and parcel, instrumental in Donald Trump's re-election, this past 2024. So, and look, like for me, I wouldn't even call myself right. I am conservative. I'm conservative, but I wouldn't say right wing or left wing. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, when we're talking about right wing and left wing, I think that's what creates a divide. Because let's go back to the 1960s and look at how RFK, shifted and went to Trump's side. Because at one point it was JFK that was saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Right? But now what do Democrats do? The Democrats are the one pushing welfare. Oh, your country will do this. Come. You know what I'm saying? It's so I think. Go ahead. Correct me.
Okay. The fact that people care about the rest of humanity does not make it bad. I believe that most people that go to church in various religions, and it doesn't matter which type, believe that the other people that they want other people to do better in their life. They don't want them to be in pain. They don't want them to agonize. They want the best of everyone. And to suggest, like you just did, that Democrats or half the people in the U.S. don't agree or are bad people because they want other people not to be bad off.
I did not say
That
they were
is
bad
just
people.
that's you're pushing an agenda that you're believing that everybody left the center is a bad person and agrees with it. I'm against that. I think the Venn diagram would suggest the vast majority of the Americans find what happened detestable. They don't want us to be in this situation. We want to tone down the rhetoric, not tone it up.
That they were bad people, but if you even look at it, what was the majority group of people politically how did they politically identify those who were celebrating Mr. Kirk's death?
I want to just point out to what AB or JB put above.